Hi Hinsters, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new, welcome too. Do give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you want, if you would like to support me further. Also, we of course still in Libra season as I film, so my offer for Libra Suns and Libra Risings remains. That is 50% off birth chart and tarot readings with me. Just check out the description box below for more on that. Right, so time for some moon watch. Full moon in Aries. Woohoo! Well, I, for one, am very excited for this one. By the way, if you are not so sure what a full moon is, or you want to know the key differences between full moons and new moons, you can check out my video on that topic, which I will link in this video. But in short, full moons are big moments of culmination, release, and in this lovely yet deadly choppy Libra season, they do mark those quintessential moments of cutting off, or just that divine slap on that Aries Libra season axis, just like the Cancer Capricorn axis. And I'm getting also big like magician vibes here. And I'm getting frig this and throwing down a big load, cutting off a whole throng of people or things that are just not good for us. I can see Magpie right now, my spirit animal. Hello. And a realization that we've cleaned it all out. We've run it out. We've run it through. The record has been spun. It's broken, it's smashed, it's shattered, it's done with. Virgo season was, the dithering of, should I sweep these pieces away? Libra's like, yes. And Aries is like, frig yes. Um, it's time to shake it off and to be off with his head, as I've been mentioning in this Libra season. This particular Libra season is a very off with her head kind of season. For some people, it's very poignant. And for others, it's more of a relief. Breath, air season kind of moment. A big wow, I did that. Wow, I'm here. Wow, I'm free finally from something. The tiger as well can sit down and start to sleep now. It's a sort of new moony type of full moon, actually, because Aries energy very often brings newness and the sense of adventure and a coming out or a leaping out. And also, a Libra season, it kind of gives us this water under the bridge, forgive and forget, fieriness with the full moon as well. And sometimes a tongue in cheekness, sometimes a shock. But in the end, the big action, this full moon represents that it's all love, but you can't treat me the way you treated me. You can't do this, you can't behave like this. That's what this full moon can mark. And being about people having let their guard down in the way they treated you or you treated other people. And it's nothing personal against one person or thing, though, at the same time. It's all about karma. And just that Aries restlessness and that Libran sensibility kind of come together to finally cut losses and to let ourselves grab hold of something more luxurious sometimes, to allow ourselves some karmic payback. That's a big word here, I think. I feel for this full moon, payback, payback, payback. Now, I'm going to show you now on the screen. Hopefully I can. 1 second. Let me see. Okay, yeah. Here we are, 9th of October. And I'm showing you the screen of the full moon officially and some of the other astral points really involved in this full moon in Aries. Now for Cancer risings especially, for Libra of course, and also for lunar people generally. The full moon culmination probably happened before the 9th of October. And for you, it's more about reflection and harnessing what can be learned from what has happened or been experienced. It can be more of that relief coming down from the full moon. For others, we experience this full moon as a tough love reaction or as a well-meaning detachment or an escape, a great escape sometimes, maybe for some. And like being cruel to be kind sometimes is what we experience here, or really choosing not to respond so as not to embarrass someone, that kind of thing. A driving away as well, so as to cool off. Also, this full moon brings out those nice but strikes type of people, type of spirits, those people you didn't expect to shoot, but they did, and it's kind of cool. There's something wise to be had from someone's cockiness or their I don't give a frigness. And the moon has contacted Chiron before it opposes the sun in this full moon event, and then it's moving towards Mars and Gemini. And I see this as a war strategy kind of move, a scary conversation perhaps, or a serious move otherwise. A who really cares, like, or why should I care type of action, or if you don't care, then I don't care type of action, and there's a divine balance in that. There's a fineness about that, even though lots of people will object and say that we must be kind and we must be grown up. No, there's a divine fineness in this. There's a justice in our anger in many moments of our lives. And some will not be able to wait any longer, and the arrows will be shot in some chironic way. And it's a big chance, also, a big chance is taken, rather, I think, so as to avoid stagnation or to avoid repeating ourselves in some sense. This is the beginning of the shadow half of the year. So some of us finally want to avoid a certain cycle. And this is like the moment when we finally break that. And Aries energy really helps us to do that breaking. And Lilith is in Cancer, squaring the moon here at this time, presenting so much potential for just getting the frig out of something or away from something and not being sorry about it. Of course, with the Sun and Venus in Libra opposing the moon, there is a wisdom in tempering ourselves as we make our moves. And with the Sun and Venus trining retrograde Saturn in Aquarius, there's even more good to be had, I think, when we do a bit of pretending. Saturn rules feigned appearances, a bit of half truth telling, just to save people's feelings, but also so as to not have to put the brakes on your necessary getaway. Also, one thing Aries represents and brings out from the Aries Libra axis is that it's okay sometimes to break contracts or to break rules, to not be so polite or cordial. This is a sword season, Libra, that we're talking about. Like, once you're swinging a sword, you can't just stop it mid-swing. You got to swing it. You got to finish the swing. And yeah, there's going to be some bloodshed. And Lilith is really putting a strenuous voice in here, that little frig off elbow coming in and saying what you feel, and this full moon can be like a stag as well, like a buck kind of raising its head finally out of a 6-month stoop for some people, and freeing itself from the shadows and the demons, or some of the shadows and demons that used to keep it shackled. And Saturn also sextiles the moon, right, on this full moon, and trines Mars. So this is big, ready potential for cutting off. I trust, though, that we may try to make these cuts as clean and communicated as possible. Yet it will be easy to not do so. And this is it's just part of life and spiritual experience and the energetic weather, spiritual weather. We're not always going to be perfect or ideal. Overall, though, I do feel this full moon is good for us. It's a walking away from strife, having learned quite a bit, and onto a new chapter. And easily, we are gaining spiritual wealth by knowing what and who to break free from, and taking that Aries independent action. It's retrograde season as well, so a lot of these things, people, spaces we need to get away from, it's not new, actually. It's just repetitions, reintroductions of things we still have not, up until this point, contended with. But Aries contention, that's Aries contention. And of course, Libra season is like acknowledging that you can make a few mistakes. And the sun's fall is always going to be kind of echoing the need to make this as little about the ego as possible, and instead finding like a mature middle ground and not feeling too angry or overly compelled or overly proud, and to not do it to prove a point, but just to do it and just be fine by having done it, by having made the decision. And there is no shame in doing something for yourself. There is no need to feign joy when really you're miserable or sad or suppressed or whatever. And you will find it's pretty simple actually now, that people will kind of see you for what you are, and that there is a respect both for yourself and coming from others. And that this full moon is like this is a combination, a marking of you and who you actually are in a raw sense. And I also have decided to talk a bit more about myself on this channel, as I realize I don't do that much, and some of the Hinsters might appreciate it. But as you may know, I'm a Cancer rising, and Libra season for me, as all Cancer risings, is always a very fourth house thing, and it involves the subconscious and the hidden stuff rising up and kind of realizing that there's actually something or someone that you need to swat away and you didn't even know. Like you thought it wasn't something, maybe you thought it was actually the opposite of being needed to swat away, but you're realizing actually, yeah. And then you get the swatter out and it's like gone. And yeah, it's like hidden stuff rising up. It's an angular house as well, the fourth house, and Libra is a karmic season, so it's not a little thing for me, but it's quite impactful this moment. And with the moon, which is the ruler of my first house, my body and my very spirit, having this full moon in my 10th house in Aries, in the house of big action, being in another angular karmic house, and also being in a house of where it was said the gods made their decisions, I really feel this Libra season coming through strong. And I decided, recently to quit a job. There were many reasons for doing so. I'm very excited for having done so. But one thing I found quite peculiar is how incredible people can be in these breakaway situations. Actually, when I was a kid, so some of the women in my family and neighborhood would call me like a saint of patience or a good boy, good as gold boy. I'm still very often called like calm, so zen, that people can't believe sometimes how I can conduct myself in a certain situation that they would not be able to contain their own anger or upset or whatever in. And I also have, my natal Mars in the 12th house, by the way. I do feel that Mars is very important for all of us, by the way, in this full moon equation, as the moon will later Aries head to conjunct Mars in Gemini. Mars also being a planet that will begin a month's long retrograde, like 6-7 months in Gemini. That's about to begin in October, by the way. But anyway, yeah, as I quit this job, one or two people were so like insistent. I'm just like, pfft. They were so insistent suddenly that I stay to keep me, try to slow me down, try to impress upon me this duty to stay. But, and that it was not the right, quote unquote, right thing to do. Beware of that in Libra season. People trying to impress on you the right thing to do. Yet I remember the many times they had done things to me that were not right to me. And most times I just played stupid and overlooked these aggressions. But even when I did raise that what they were doing to me was not right, they would always have some kind of excuse or justification for their behavior, or just an arrogance that would just overlook it. And I found that quite interesting, and how it would always be turned back around to me. And Madonna kind of comes to me right now like, don't play that stupid game because I'm a different kind of girl. That's kind of how it's coming through this full moon for many people. Like, yeah, I'm quite golden, but people also love to sleep on me. And then they have a big stick up their arse when I finally leave, and they act like they can't grasp the why, and like they're, crying and all the rest of it. And I'm just like, I'm a saint of patience, but when I'm done, I'm done. And as a Chiron and moon rising individual as well, I don't really have a problem in the end leaving it up to fate and just leaving a situation if I feel it's time. So anyway, to all of us, I guess, to all the Hinsters, never be afraid to just be yourself and stand up for yourself when the time calls for it. And you'll know when it's the right time, because it's not always the right time. That's another thing to keep in mind. Some others I was working with in this job I left, they've been really nice and understanding, and others have started saying like incorrect things about me, but I don't care so much. I'm enjoying the silly antics of people who realize they can't in the end control other people. And you know, spirits can't be tethered. You can't be tethered. It breaks away, it breaks out eventually. And I think we should often be willing to embrace that Aries, especially in around this full moon, Fool, spring energy, that bravery to jump out and away from that which tries to come for you and come to you in that aggressive way, and to not feel indebted as well to any person, place, or thing that had no problem cutting you up before you had your jumping away moment. And there's no shame in like shaving something off, or you know, this is culmination, this is cutting it off, this is ripping it off and protecting your head, the spirit, the beginning. And I feel we can remember here that not everyone or everything we interact with is something we need to honor. But in fact, some of these people or things we should have slammed that door of closure on to a long time ago. But better late than never, eh? Anyway, have a happy and adventurous full moon in Aries and rest of the lovely, luxurious shadow season, Libra season. I love you very much. Let's all take care, and I'll see you in the next one.